Here's how I finally stopped staying up late. I remember one day, I must have been like 11 or 12, and I'm sitting in my bed with my phone on the pillow, and I'm laying there and I'm just scrolling on TikTok. And I'm just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and I love it, right? It's so fun, right? Yeah, I'm gonna stay awake, and it's 1 a.m. at night. And I tell myself, hey, I'm gonna stay awake the entire, I'm gonna stay awake until the sun comes out, basically. So I keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling for hours and hours and hours, and it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m. And now it's 6 a.m. and I feel like my eyes are shutting, but I'm like, hey, I'll stay awake a bit more. I'll stay awake a bit more. And I keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and the sun comes out. And I'm so happy, right? The sun comes out, but now I'm waking. I'm very tired and I want to sleep, right? My adenosine is very high, right? So I put my phone aside and I sleep. And I wake up at 5 p.m. It's nighttime. And I wake up and I remember having like so much sweat and just feeling terrible, like feeling disgusted by myself. And this wasn't just one day. This story that I told you was the story of every single day of my life. I was conditioned for all of my life to stay awake, stay up late, stay awake. And that was my life. I used to always, sleep in the morning and wake up at night, and it was just terrible. I just felt terrible. But now, I'm happy to say that every single day, I sleep at 10 p.m. and I wake up at 6:30 a.m. every single day for months now, for months. And I've learned a lot about sleep. I've read, books about sleep. I've listened to Andrew Huberman, Matthew Walker, and this is personally what I've learned. What I've learned is that the biggest and the only reason we stay up late is that when our bedtime comes, we don't feel sleepy and we stay up late, right? We don't want to sleep. Or at least for me personally, like for me, when my bedtime came, when it came, at time at 10 p.m., I wouldn't want to sleep, right? I wouldn't feel like I want to sleep. I just wanted to stay up late because my adenosine was so low. Like imagine this, like if you wake up at 5 p.m. and you're supposed to sleep at 10 p.m. You want to sleep at 10 p.m. All you have is just 5 hours of staying awake. Your adenosine, the hormone that makes you want to sleep, the hormone that makes you feel sleepy, it increases the more you are awake. And it needs like 15, 16, 17 hours to actually be very high and for you to actually feel sleepy. So the reason we actually can't sleep is when our bedtime comes, we don't feel sleepy because our adenosine is so low, right? So the question here becomes, well, how do we feel very sleepy and very tired at night so that sleeping is just natural, that you automatically just sleep because you're so tired and sleepy that you just want to sleep, right? And the good news, bro, is that all it takes to fix years and years and years of staying up late is just one day. All it takes is just one day to fix this. And it just takes 3 things. The first thing is stay awake until your bedtime comes. Like I said, like when I was, when I was a young kid, I used to always sleep at like 6 or 7 a.m. and wake up at like 4 or 5 p.m. and just feel terrible. But this 24-hour technique literally fixed everything for me. So let me explain. You have a hormone in your body. A hormone is basically, like we could define it as something that makes you want to do something, all right? You have a hormone in your body that's called adenosine. And this hormone is what makes you feel sleepy. It's what makes you feel tired, right? It's what makes you actually want to sleep. All right, and adenosine, the way to increase it is by staying awake. So the more you are awake, the higher your adenosine is. Because you build something called sleep pressure the more you are awake. The more you are awake, the higher your adenosine. So the reason, and this is for me personally, the reason I used to always stay up late is I had barely any adenosine, and I would wake up at like 4 or 5 p.m. So all I would have is like 5 or 6 hours of staying awake, which is barely anything. So my adenosine was so low, so I would have to compensate by staying up late to have enough adenosine to sleep, right? But the problem is, sleeping in the morning is so terrible for your health. It is so bad. Like, we as human beings, we never slept in the morning. We always slept at night. Evolutionarily speaking, for hundreds of thousands of years, we have always slept at night. We have always woke up in the morning. That's it. You know, not until like the invention of like the light bulb by Thomas Edison in the 1800s, that's when we started, you know, basically staying up late. Right, so that's how adenosine works, is the more you are awake, the higher your adenosine is. So the best and literally the only way to stop staying up late forever is when our bedtime comes and we don't feel sleepy, we stay awake till our next bedtime comes. Now, I've done this many times and it works, but it's a bit hard, I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit challenging, but you can do it, anyone can do it, and it's just one day. Like one day, I promise you, one day will fix your sleep forever. All right, it will fix years and years and years of staying up late, of conditioning, right? One day. So let me explain how I do this, right? Because sometimes I stay up late. So let's say I stayed up late and I'm in this cycle, right, of sleeping in the morning and waking up at night, sleeping in the morning, waking up at night. When I wake up at like, let's say 5 p.m., right? And then it comes 10 p.m. and I don't feel sleepy at all. But then I tell myself, hey, I'm gonna stay awake, because it's, you know, I have done this so many times and my adenosine is so low, so I have to stay up late. But here is the kicker. Here is the thing. I will stay up late for, let's say it's 5 p.m. and now it's 10 p.m. So I stay awake for the entire next day. So the entire next day, you know, it's 7 a.m. and then it's 12 p.m. and then it's, you know, 6 p.m. and you will feel, I know, you will just feel like exhausted. You just want to sleep because your adenosine is extremely high. You will feel so tired, but you have to push through until your bedtime comes for the next day. This is literally the best and the only way to fix staying up late. This, I promise you, I've done this multiple times and it works, right? When you don't feel tired for your bedtime because you don't have enough adenosine, you haven't stayed up late for enough time, you stay up late for the entire next day. So you stay up late for like 24 hours. Literally, that's why I call it like the 24-hour technique. You stay up late for 24 hours until your bedtime comes the next day. And when your bedtime comes, you are so tired and so exhausted because your adenosine is extremely high. So you just sleep like a little child, basically. And that fixes your sleep, because when you sleep, when you sleep early, you're gonna wake up early, and then when you wake up early and you stay awake for the entire day, you're gonna sleep early, and now your sleep is fixed forever, right? So this is literally the best way, the 24-hour technique. This is the most important thing. Like, I'll tell you a story actually, because I discovered this technique like very early, before anyone even talked about it. I remember I was in this cycle of, you know, waking up. This was like a couple of years ago, like a few years ago. I was in this cycle of, you know, waking up and staying up late, waking up and staying up late, waking up in the morning and sleeping at night. So what I did was, I told myself, you know what? I don't care what I do. but I will stay awake. I didn't know anything about like adenosine or melatonin or anything about sleep science, but I knew that this technique worked and it was like very effective and it did work because it's based on science. So I told myself, I will wake up the entire next day until until my bedtime comes, basically. So I stayed awake and I kept staying awake. And then from 10 p.m., 11, 12, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4, 5, 6 a.m. And I just feel pretty tired, but I tell myself, push through, push through, push through. And then, I take a shower, I hit myself with some water because I want to, feel energized. And my mom says, hey, we're going to the club, right? So I go to the club and I grab like a football with me because, the club, there's like sports in there and, you play sports in the club. So I grab like a football, I put on like my football gear and I find like some random strangers. So I play with them and we keep playing for hours and hours and hours. And I remember I finished everything. I put the ball in my bag and I just finished, and it was around like 8 p.m. and I just feel exhausted, man. And I was in the car and I slept a bit. I took like a nap in the car, and I'm going up the stairs and I just feel exhausted, right? And at that time it's like 9 p.m. I went straight to my bed, closed the lights, and I slept like a child, right? So that's how you do it, okay? You stay awake, and it's just one day. It won't do any harm for you because it's just one day, but you have extremely high adenosine, so you go to sleep. So that's the first thing. The second thing is self-improvement habits. Now, like I said, another massive reason I was never able to sleep because of all of the habits I was doing. Like the story I said in the very beginning, I was scrolling on TikTok, so of course I would stay up late. And I was playing video games, I was watching porn and having all this stimulating content. It just destroys our sleep. Like these bad habits, video games, porn, junk food, video games, alcohol, they just destroy our sleep completely, man. Because what these companies do, basically, these companies, all they care about is money, right? The evil modern world, all it cares about is just money, right? All they want is just money from their video games and their social media. They don't care about your sleep. They don't care about it. They just want your time, your attention, so they can have money because attention is money, right? But they don't care about the side effects. But the side effects are destroying our health, both our mental and physical health, and of course destroying our sleep. What video games and social media and porn do is they emit all this stimulating dopamine and all this blue light which inhibits your melatonin, which is the hormone that signals to your body that, hey, it's actually time to sleep now. So it's never time to sleep, and by default they make you stay up late. So when I replaced, all the bad habits with good habits, I just slept like a baby. And this makes complete sense. Like when you wake up and you get morning sunlight and you meditate, you journal, you work out, you read for hours. Like at the end of the day, you will just feel so tired that you'll just sleep like a child, right? You'll be very tired that you'll just sleep effortlessly because all these habits make you extremely tired and extremely, sleepy and want to sleep, right? The third thing is morning sunlight and getting darkness at night. Now the third thing is making your room both dark and cold. So let me explain this. So let's say you do everything right. You stay up all day till, you stay up the entire day until your bedtime. And in all that time, you know, because you stay up late for like 20 hours, you stayed up late for so long, right? You meditated, you journaled, you know, you worked on school or on your business, you know, you worked out, you read, you did all these good habits, and now you're in your room. This is the final step, right? Like I said, there's a hormone in your body that's called melatonin, and it's the hormone that signals to your entire body, your entire nervous system, that hey, it's time to go to sleep, right? It makes your entire body relax. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the nervous system that puts you in calm, peaceful mode, and makes your entire body ready to go to sleep, basically. So to maximize melatonin, because we maximized adenosine, to maximize melatonin, we need to make our room both dark and cold. And if you think about this with me, right, evolutionarily, like 100,000, 200,000 years ago, we always slept best when it was pitch black, you know, dark at night, right? That's when we always slept. We slept when it was pitch black and when it was very cold at night, right? We didn't have like these buildings or these, you know, beds or covers. We just slept when it was dark and cold. So our biological, you know, our evolutionary biology basically is based on, and our hormones are all based on our evolution, right? So we need to make our environment both dark and cold to maximize melatonin. So the way I do this is very, very simple, right? So I sleep at 10 p.m. So when it's 9:30 p.m., I put on this little night light and I close all the lights in my room. So all I have is just this little tiny light and I'm reading next to it, right? And I keep reading, and now I'm like very tired, right? Because I did so many things in the day. And also I turn on the AC. If it's summer or if it's winter, I just open the windows, all right? When it's 10 p.m. and, you know, my bedtime alarm rings, I get my clothes ready for the next day. I go and brush my teeth and I pray, and then I put on this, you know, eye mask, right? And this eye mask like improved my sleep drastically, right? It is so good, you know, and it's so cheap, man. It blocks all the light, you know, all the light under the door, right? You know, the annoying light that's coming from outside, you know, it blocks it all because it covers all of your eyes. So all you can see is just pitch black darkness. I put that on and I just go to sleep, all right? Yeah, that's like my sleep routine. So you can have any sleep routine. You can do whatever way you want. It doesn't have to be like mine at all. But yeah, it just has to, you know, it just has to make your room dark and cold. That's really what it should focus on. All right. So this is how I stopped staying up late forever. And as always, we're in this together and we will make it.